Do 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 do. Da da ba da ba ba ba. Good that you're watching to the weekly Wednesday stream where we talk about all the gaming news. You ask questions, I do my best to answer them. We have a good time. That's what we do. And this is the first stream since, of course, the Horizon Hunters Gathering reveal. So, yeah, we will be talking about that. I have a topic prepared for that. Yeah, we're gonna discuss that. I'm very curious to hear your take on it too. Of course, if you're watching later, you can also leave it in the comments or other content. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, basically, it's all good. Enkid, Joker, Blaze Flame, Paulik. Good to see everyone. Saber Knight, the Green Goat. Thanks everyone for joining, as always. I'm doing well. As you hear, my voice is recovered from the Sunday video, but it's still not amazing. Still having to recover a bit more, which is not great if, yeah, you have to make videos. But gonna, after the stream, make a short video, publish the Horizon React video, and then call it a day. And then rest a bit more. Red Venom, good to see you. Scott, good to see you as well. Slawomir, as good to see you as always as well. Melissa, the Ancient F. Damn, my voice. I should probably get some water. Get some water in here. And not because it's hot, but because my voice. Good morning, said the Agent F. Good to see you. Valor. And of course, yeah, we have the State of Play. Looking forward to that tomorrow. We will be doing the full live react tomorrow. There's already a countdown timer on the main channel. So hope to see you there. It's going to be a big show. It's going to be a long show. So excited for that. And Brock, good to see you well. Vortex. Well, praying for you to get a good recovery. Appreciate you, Blaze Flame, as always. Yeah, we have Rilo Games. Do you think Crimson Desert will be shown at the State of Play? I already talked about it in the React video, so totally check that out with everything you can expect from the State of Play. But yeah, I think there's totally a chance. I don't think it's like a slam dunk, but I do think we will see Crimson Desert at the State of Play because for multiple reasons, they announced the release date at the State of Play, and they also, it's their final big showcase where they can talk about the game, reveal a bit more. Now, I don't know what they will show though, because I do feel like they've been, peeling back the curtain a bit more already. With all their feature videos, we will get one more. And I think it will be very telling because tomorrow on Thursday, they seem to be dropping those feature videos every week on Thursday. So there's going to be one more. So if we get that like Thursday morning or something, then they might skip State of Play because I do think why post your features video if you're gonna have another trailer at the State of Play, right? So we will see. But I mean, we're gonna get a lot of Crimson Desert. We're almost a month from launch. That feels kind of crazy on one hand because it's so soon. On the other hand, feels like it's also going to be March 19th before we know it. Time does fly. We're already February 11th, 2026. Wolverine in the May State of Play. Yeah, as I said in the React video as well for the State of Play, Wolverine is not part of it. So Insomniac now also once again said, yo, new information will be in spring 2026. And it's not spring yet, so we will have to wait for that. 530 Nights, good to see you too. And yeah, Saras, totally extra coverage for that will be happening. I mean, yeah, this is going to be the biggest stage for Saras as well before launch. So I'm sure they will use that. But I'm curious what they will show because they've totally... I mean, I think the Game Awards trailer was pretty cool. They've teased one of the first-person segments. I think it would be good to have like a developer talk a bit more about Saras. I would not be surprised if they start with that. That they start with like, yo, by the way, the first big game, not counting Marathon, like the first big game from the single player output. It's happening already on April 30th, and here's someone from Housemark telling you about what makes this game special. And I do think that would be smart to do. Frankie Chu, bit late, but hi all. Hello. Sony don't care about making games. There's no future. What is that cynical view? They do care about. They're making, like, Sony as a corporation makes the most money from games. They're gonna sleep during the holiday season this year and make billions. You have to remember that's 33%. They might have a deal. No, it's probably 30%. Maybe Take-Two is like, yo, we need a deal, Sony, because we're not doing this. But they're gonna get, I mean, it's probably 30% of all the money that people on PlayStation spent on GTA 6. So I really think that game is going to sell 20 million in a day or something. It's gonna be nuts. So Sony taking 30% from the majority, because of course there's going to be a few million on Xbox, but I think 75% will be on PlayStation. I think it will be, so on day one it might be like a split 25% on Xbox, 75 on PlayStation, and then the PlayStation share will just keep on getting bigger and bigger, because I think way more people will jump on the PS5 to play GTA than get an Xbox for it. So Sony will their biggest game this year, it's not Wolverine, it's not Saros. They will make more money from GTA than all the other games combined. So, I mean, like all their games, not all the other games, but you know what I mean. Ari Vortex is asking, how's your day been so far? Pretty good. So I usually have my training today, and then some other lessons, and then I like kind of start working at 3 p.m. So it's not too bad, and it's now 4:30. So I've been prepping some things. I got a new idea that I've been working on, and again, I have to give my voice some rest after this stream. So we're gonna talk about Hunter's Gathering here in a moment, and I'm gonna then publish that video and do another short talking about the state of play. Talking about the one more things, because let me know what you think. Like, I want to hear that from you as well. What do you think the one more thing will be? So I showed it already in that React video. We can like quickly look at it here. So of course check that video out if you are curious. But basically this is double me. But yeah, the one more thing situation. So I went back to every state of play from 2024 and 2025. And every single one of them has a one more thing that is a PlayStation Studio announcement. And I'm not hearing anyone else talk about this, so I thought it was like a fascinating sort of observation. So let's go through them real quick, and then I want to know what you think it's going to be. So we have in January 2024, we had Pheasant from Kojima. He's basically working on a sort of Metal Gear title for PlayStation. He's gonna do, of course, he did Death Stranding, and now he's going to do OD, so the Xbox horror game, and then he's gonna work on on Pheasant. It's gonna be a PlayStation 6 game, probably. I hope so as well. It's gonna be a while before we see it, 2030, I think, at the earliest. So then we had Astrobot during the May 2024 State of Play. Then September 2024 State of Play had Ghost of Yote as a new reveal. Again, all big new reveals from PlayStation Studios. Then February 2025, so a similar State of Play as what we're going to watch tomorrow, had Saros as the reveal. Then Marvel Token was the reveal in June of 2025. And what was the reveal in September 2025? Of course, Wolverine. So, I mean, I think they're gonna continue that trend, but the thing is, if we go through all the PlayStation Studios and what they're working on, there are not a lot of options. Like before the Horizon Hunter Gathering thing, you could argue that, I mean, if Guerrilla Games was making a game people actually wanted, then that would have been a perfect end of the thing slot. If they were not making Hunter's Gathering, then by now they would be starting the teasing for Horizon 3. So that would be your perfect state of play slot, right? Again, Ghost of Yote was announced here too. Yeah, but that's not happening. They did Hunter's Gathering and they announced it with like little fanfare because they knew or were kind of they thought that the mixed reaction was gonna, like, putting that in the state of play, I do think would not have been smart. So I get that they're doing that. But it's also kind of interesting, on the other hand, that you're spending so much time, like they've been working on this game for 8 years, obviously with a very small team, and for the last few years with like a big team. And then you are afraid to announce in the state of play. The moment you're afraid to announce something in the state of play, that should be an alarm bell in and of itself. So, like, why? But yeah, we're going to talk more about it in a moment. Yeah, let's see what people are thinking that we will see. Thanks everyone for joining. Mohammed, good to see you as always as well. Platforms usually take 30%. Yes, Scott, that's so PlayStation's going to make bank from GTA 6. Do you think the PS5 console price will go up this year? I think Sony already said during their investor call that they will keep the same price, and that the sort of the things that are going on with all the parts, that of course is driving up the PC prices, will not affect them, at least this year, all the RAM stuff. So yeah, I think they're gonna keep the same price, but you have to remember that the PlayStation 5 is already more expensive than when it came out. So it's still kind of crazy that buying the console in 2020, also looking at inflation, was a way cheaper option than getting the same freaking console right now. Crazy. Yeah, Jinwoo, we're in that era. We're in that era. Remotanella, I hope you're feeling better. Well, I am feeling great, but my voice is still not fully recovered. So yeah, we're gonna see. Okay, so people have some input, have some input about the one more thing. What is the rumor about DMC6 true? So for people who don't know, I mean, that could be a one more thing announcement. But what is interesting is that, again, all these one more things that I went over, they're all PlayStation exclusives, PlayStation Studio games. While I do think a DMC6 at the end would be a pretty big announcement, that's not what they are usually doing. But yeah, it might be that they hit a wall and are like, we need a big one more thing, but we just don't have anything. And then they went to Capcom. But as I also said in the React video, Capcom has so much stuff. Do they really want to announce another game? So basically, I don't think we will see DMC6 just yet. I think they want to focus on Resident Evil, Pragmata, Onimusha. They're going to do a DLC, like an Iceborne DLC for Wilds. So they have a ton on their plate already. I think DMC6 is not going to launch this year, so why already announce it now? I think that's better like a Tokyo Game Show announcement. So maybe during the State of Play then. Intergalactic is possible. Is possible for sure. But yeah, here, for example, yeah, Blaze Flame. Will Sony reveal the future first-party games slated for the next 2 to 3 years in June or September State of Play, or will they wait for the summer next year or spread them? Like that is what kind of their new tactic has been. Instead of doing one big show where they announce everything, they're keeping all these announcements and putting them into these State of Play shows. Because if you really think about it, if the September State of Play that we had did not have Wolverine, it would suck. If the State of Play before that in September did not have Ghost of Yote, it was not a good State of Play. So with them putting these big games in as the final slot, it makes the whole package way better. And they have deals with partners that are like, yo, we want to be in the State of Play. And because Sony has been putting their crown jewels at the end of these showcases, it's a pretty good deal for a game to be in the state of play, because people will tune in because they know, hey, maybe Corey's new game is gonna be here. Again, maybe it's gonna be Corey's game. That could be it. I'm really curious what that will be. I hope it's not the 2.5D God of War game. It does fit the first party sort of thing. The one that I'm feeling the best about is Until Dawn 2. I know this is kind of wild, but we had the rumor for the longest time that Fire Sprite, they did the Horizon Call of the Mountain game, I think, as well. But they always had been working on a horror narrative experience where your choices matter. And then, of course, they did the Until Dawn remake in 2024, I think, where they added a new ending to that game that teased a sequel. So I don't think that remake did very well, but because it was not really a remake, it was more a remaster, but they kind of were like, and they, of course, had the movie. That's probably one of the other reasons why they put it out. But like announcing an Until Dawn 2 now, having it out in October, I can see it happen. Like it could be possible. And I do think from all the studios that Sony has, I do think that game has to come out at some point, because we've been hearing about it for a very long time. So my money would be on Until Dawn 2. Sander, good to see you as always. I prefer the announcement spread out rather than everything in one showcase. Yeah, and Sony seems to do that too. But I do think like there are moments like for a new console launch, you cannot do that tactic then. Then they actually have to sell you the console. Right now, they just want to sell you the games. And I also think it's way better to have a state of play with Ghost of Yote as your... So you have all the announcements are kind of like this. Some are a bit higher than others. And you get Ghost of Yote like this. But if you, in that same showcase, also have the Wolverine trailer that we are waiting for and all the other stuff, I don't think it works. You can better have the moments like dedicated, or like the spotlight dedicated to one of your games. And then you're also beefing up all your state of plays. Again, I think it's a winning tactic. Although, I miss those days with the E3 2016, where God of War was revealed. I think that was the one, right? Yeah. And Days Gone, and where we saw all those new games. There are people playing games right now that don't know what I'm talking about. And that is the sad reality of these showcases. We're getting more of them throughout the year, but it also means that they're individually never going to be as exciting as the E3 showcase. Yeah, Intergalactic, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. Hey, East Blue Drew, good to see you as always. Is it Naughty Dog working on 2 separate games? Yeah, that is the other one. What if we hear the Uncharted music and it's Uncharted? It's back. That would be sick, but I don't know. I think they want to launch Intergalactic first, and then probably people working on that will help with the second game they have. So there was a rumor actually about it, which was pretty interesting, talking about Naughty Dog. Let's look it up. I think I can look it up. Naughty Dog job listing. Reddit leaks. So here, Naughty Dog job listing hints at an unannounced multi-platform game with multiplayer experience. Naughty Dog appears to be working on a second project, a multi-platform multiplayer release, according to a new job listing. And then we have the one and only Jason Schreier. You guys gotta stop looking for news in job listings. So basically, okay, we don't know why they're looking for a multiplayer person, but I can probably remove this one. But yeah, basically, they're not working on a multiplayer game. We of course know they were working on Lost of Us Online. That did not work out. So yeah, they're Intergalactic, and they have another team. Like, I would be shocked if it's another new IP. I think it makes sense to be Uncharted. We talked about it, I think, during the last stream, that Uncharted is like at 40 million copies or something. That is crazy. Or Uncharted 4 sold like 18 million copies. It was played by like 40 million people. Sony would be stupid to not continue with that. Mr. J just won the 60 FPS update for Unity. Well, as we talked about last week as well, that is happening. That is happening. Yeah, like again, they tried Last of Us Online. I don't think they're gonna dabble with that. So yeah. But it is interesting, right? So Naughty Dog, it's with the PS5 generation likely being longer than intended, we might see 2 Naughty Dog games after all, like new games on the PS5. I do think that will happen, but I miss Uncharted 2. Easily Drew. A God of War remaster trilogy would be better than God of War Lost Crown. Eric Sander, yeah, of course, but I've said it multiple times when those God of War trilogy rumors were swirling around that I don't believe them, because I really think Sony can... The Sony that published those games back then is not the same Sony that we know right now. So I really think they can better leave those games alone. Maybe do a dedicated sort of prequel for Kratos, like a retelling of those games, but with a new spin on it. Because there are some things in those games that I think people would be very angry at if Sony removed them. And I do think if they were going to remaster or remake those games, they're not going to include all the sex mini games and stuff. So yeah, they're not going to do that. So, and I can already see the articles and videos. Sony has gone woke. They removed my titty game. So yeah, I don't think they want to burn their hands on that. It's better to just focus. And they're also now doing an Amazon TV show. And the casting is pretty solid. So I don't want to say I have high hopes, but I have hopes. And if they then launch a God of War remaster trilogy, then people coming in, they will be so confused. They'll be like, okay, I want to play God of War because I just watched the TV show. I'm going to play the latest release. And if they then see, oh, it's a trilogy remaster, they're going to play that and be like, what the heck? This is not the freaking show that I just watched. No, they want to do a 28. They want those people to boot up the 2018 game and then get God of War. Have you seen the Atreus actor? Yeah. It wasn't as wildly reported, or maybe I was just like under a stone, but I saw that they had one, but he's not that famous yet, right? Horizon 3 will be the announcement the year Horizon 1 took place. Oh my god. Don't say that. Alright, Uncharted 5 is the move. I don't think Dante the Man, I don't think they will call it Uncharted 5. But it would be, I do think that would be a banger move though, calling it Uncharted 5. Because I do think if they call it Uncharted something, I mean, then you think, oh, it's like Lost Legacy, it's not a big new game. But I do think they should go make it a big new game. Although it is likely not the core Naughty Dog team working on it, at least right now. It's gonna be fascinating. I hope it's an Uncharted, but it's of course not confirmed. We kind of don't know. Kind of disappointed with Naughty Dog. They haven't released a new game this entire generation and barely cutting in probably next year. Yeah, that is the situation. But that is the sad reality. We will look back at this PlayStation generation as the generation that could have been, and the one that has been heavily impacted by mismanagement and Sony chasing the live service golden goose. And they are still we're freaking 6 years into this generation now, and they're still unable to crack it. They had Helldivers 2, but that was actually a game where they did not have as much like planning, and that was probably part of their live service strategy, but it was mostly Arrowhead doing the thinking and how they were going to launch that game. And obviously it's still a live service, but it's not the live service Sony wants. It's not the seasons. It doesn't go as deep into the microtransactions, etc. It's really Arrowhead's game. And yeah, that Sony can put their stamp on. And so basically all the things they tried Like, if it was just the Concord, Fair Games, so basically new studios we did not know about before, still getting the prime slot at the state of play that maybe could have been for another game, okay, fine. But if that was the only, if those were the only casualties basically at the end of the generation, I would be like, I get it, Sony, you want to get one of those big games that especially a younger audience is interested in as well. But we still get the Blue Point remake. We still get the Days Gone spiritual successor from Bend Studio. We still get Horizon 3. But no, the reality is that those teams, or like the next Naughty Dog game that is not an online game, no, the reality is that those studios, like, I said it during the Sunday video as well, and I think it's gonna be a fact. We will not see a new game from Sony Band, the Days Gone team, for 10 years. They will probably not have put out anything, if you don't count Days Gone Remastered, in 10 years' time. Blue Point, they made a fantastic Demon's Souls remake. And yeah, we will not see their new game. That was 2020, by the way. Days Gone 2019. We will not see their new game for another few years. Because they thought it was a good idea to have this 100-person team work on a live service game that usually is supported by few times the amount of developers. Crazy. Uncharted and multiplayer was kind of fun. Yeah, it had. And it was like for 60 FPS as well, right? So it was pretty interesting, but yeah. But yeah, Uncharted Sully's Origins. Actually, Sony banned before after Days Gone, Sony Band was working on an Uncharted game featuring Sully. I think it was a prequel. Before they were like, yeah, we kind of still want to do our own thing. Yeah, Bluepoint and Band were done dirty. I mean, there are like two ways to look at it as well. It does seem that those, like, I totally believe, and we're not giving that as much thought, but I do believe these studios want to make these games as well, because they are probably playing at home these multiplayer type of experience as well. I do think it's fun. Like, I can see why it is fun to work on a live service game, because instead of working on something for 4 years and then having it launch and that's the moment, you are working on something where you are constantly releasing things and you constantly have a community that is engaging with you. Worked on something and a few months later people can already play with it. And I do think that's exciting for developers that are used to like hammering down 5 years on one project, and then maybe it doesn't work out, or what some decision means that the game doesn't sell well, and you wasted 4 or 5 years of your life. I mean, not really wasted, but it could feel like that. While if you have one bad season in a live service and the next one is great, hey. So I totally think that there are parts that we don't realize, that as a developer, sure, it does mean you probably have to crunch a bit more because there are way more deadlines and you're working in a live environment. But I do think the satisfaction of having your stuff out there faster is pretty exciting for a lot of developers. So I don't think it's only the managers and the leadership that is to blame for these companies going after the live service golden goose. But I do still think that as a Herman Hulst or as someone in charge of these companies, that you do have to look at the realistic picture here. And that has kind of been the Hunters Gathering thing as well. People have been saying, yeah, but don't you want Guerrilla Games to spread their wings and do something they're excited about? Sure. But I would be like, okay, you are Herman Hulst, you got Guerrilla, we want to make an Horizon online game, we're going to do it like this. And you're like, sure, here you got the budget, here you got the resources, make what you want. I mean, it's good to have creative freedom, and I trust you guys. But then, at one point, you do have to look in the mirror and be like, okay, we're now 3 years into this project. If we are going to scale up, it means that Horizon 3 won't be out for another 5 years. Because, yeah, all those people are working on this game instead. And I'm looking at it, I'm sorry, I don't think there's a market for it. So we have to make a decision. Either we're gonna start from scratch and make something people actually want, or you had your time, you were creating something, it was fun, and you were spreading your wings. But now we're gonna do something that actually makes sure that the roof above our head, that we can keep that, because we're a huge studio in the middle of Amsterdam. It's very expensive. We wanna succeed, and we have this Horizon series that we want to see grow. And I do think that that conversation should have happened. And I do think it either happened and they made one decision that now led to this reveal, or I don't know. It's interesting, but we're gonna talk a bit more about it here in a moment before I catch up with a few more of your inquiries. I agree. Ben Studios deserves a chance. Days Gone is an underdog, but a gem of a game for sure. Like, I would die for a game like Days Gone right now, because with the way, like, with the amount of time it now takes for these Sony studios to make a game like this, we're now getting one every year. And of course, like, people always say there are way more games, and yeah, it's hard to keep up with all the games, but there's something special about a Sony PlayStation exclusive. Like, booting up Ghost of Yotei and having the DualSense features, and it looks insane. It loads really fast. Like, there are just, like, it's like a different experience playing a game just made for the PlayStation, that doesn't have to, like, have, like, shareholders breathing down their neck. Hey, you need to make it hundreds of hours because we want to sell those microtransactions, and this is the only game you're gonna put out, so blah blah blah. No, this is a game that has to be has to be the crown jewel basically of the PlayStation hardware. It is there so people can, so the list of growing exclusives, or like the list of exclusives grows, so that people walk into a store and they're like, what console should I buy? Or, hey, I'm now gonna get a PlayStation. I'm on PC right now, but they got God of War, and those conversations are kind of different. But yeah, Ghost of Yotei, right now you have to get a PlayStation to get it, and that is the sole focus of that game, to be a console exclusive. And it's very rare these days that a game can just be focused on being as good as possible. And that's kind of wild to say, but that is a fact. There are many other metrics that go into making a game right now, but for a Sony exclusive, a single player game, it just, make a 10 out of 10 game. You get all the money and resources to do it. Do it. And that is very rare these days. So yeah, I want to see more of those, and I want to get a Sony banned version of that as well. And I'm very curious to see. I don't think it will change. I think the pace will be the same, so that we every year basically get one of those games. And I'm excited for Wolverine, but that does mean this year that we're getting like a 15-hour game. Like, I don't think Wolverine will be very long. Banned Ghost Rider, ooh. Just see me good see you as well. Is there any possibility we as the community can urge Ubisoft to make a second DLC for Shadows? No. Because you have to remember, if they are not working on a second DLC for Shadows right now, and we urge them right now, they're starting today. So we are getting it probably next year summer. Claws of Awaji was in development for 2 years. So, like, they said never say never. Like, what has to happen is that out of nowhere, Assassin's Creed Shadows gets some sort of renaissance, where people are like, okay, we were too harsh on the game. Maybe, like, there's a cultural phenomenon, samurai thing, or or Yasuke suddenly becomes this super, super, super famous character in some sort of movie or whatever, and people are then going to be like, whoa, what is other media where I can be this character? And then they go play Shadows, and out of nowhere, Ubisoft sees, whoa, there are suddenly hundreds of thousands or millions of people picking up Shadows. Like, I think that is what happened with The Witcher and with Cyberpunk, because we are now, like, the Cyberpunk support has ended many times. We've had many news articles where it was like, this is gonna be the final update, we're gonna do one DLC, and then they kept going. There were always new patches, and we now have rumors that they're working on a second DLC, Witcher 3 as well. Yeah, that's really it, people. And we now have rumors that there's going to be a third paid DLC for the game. They're hiring other teams to work on it because there's appetite for that type of content. And I think that is really important. I think CDPR did not expect Cyberpunk. I think I look at the Steam charts, like the Steam database, like shares a tweet every week with like the top 10. And often Cyberpunk is in the top 10 still. Like, people still buy and experience that game for the first time. So there are a ton of potential buyers for a new expansion. And Ubisoft probably ran the numbers and they were like, yeah, I'm not sure if that will be the case for Shadows. They probably also looked at their other slate of Assassin's Creed games and they were like, yeah, we have the Black Flag remake, we have Hexe. So by the time the second DLC is out, there will be other Assassin's Creed projects for people to play. So, yeah, it's probably not going to be worth it. But Valhalla got the 2 Season Pass DLCs, then Dawn of Ragnarok, and they wanted to make Mirage. That was first of Valhalla DLC. It was Eivor going to Baghdad. But then they were like, okay, maybe we can make this their own game. So, if the game was successful enough, that is probably what it comes down to. Then we would have had a second DLC, but right now, sadly not. What year do you predict Horizon 3 will be released and announced, says Drift? Like, we have the article, we have the rumors right now that most people inside Guerrilla Games are working on Hunter's Gathering, which means there's not any work done on Horizon 3. I don't think that's true. We do know Matthijs de Jonge, the game director on Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, is not involved with Hunter's Gathering. I think he is on his computer somewhere working on this game, but he has no help almost. So, look, I think it depends on if Hunter's Gathering is a success or not. If it's a success, I think it's gonna take longer before we get Horizon 3. If Hunter's Gathering walks the path that I think it will walk, where they will see it through to launch, they know they launch it, they have a few thousand concurrents and are like, this is not gonna work out. Boom, like they're gonna end that. Move everyone over to Horizon 3, get that out as soon as possible. I think we're then in 2030. I think 2030 is when we see the game, which is hurts to say. And I think that's not okay for a sequel that continues the story. How are you... Like, the tutorial for Forbidden West was already crazy because they had to... Zero Dawn came out in 2017, Forbidden West 5 years later, in 2022. They, in that tutorial, had to explain the whole background of Zero Dawn for people that never played that game. Imagine for the third game, they have to make a tutorial for everyone who never played an Horizon game before, and they have to catch everyone up who did play it. So it's gonna be like a history lesson. It's gonna be like walking through a museum again, and like, what the heck? They dig their own grave. If you make a continuation of a story in a trilogy, you should not wait 8 years to launch a new game. I thought from Zero Dawn to Forbidden West was already kind of crazy. Like, it worked for the Mass Effect games because they released very quickly after each other. I would argue you can play the Uncharted games, like, you don't really have to play the previous ones to understand it, but those games really released rapidly as well. I think a continuation in games only works if you're able to launch these games close to each other, and for Horizon 3, it's gonna take a really long time before we see it. Is Blue, do I keep hearing games being pushed to 2030? I'm gonna be on social security. I just want to see Final Fantasy tomorrow, bro. Don't expect it, Tori. Like, look at it from a Square Enix position. You are doing a great job at releasing your Final Fantasy 1 remake And Rebirth is now coming to other platforms as well. It's already out on PC. It did pretty well on PC. And your communication is the game will be out, the third game, on every platform at the same time. You're then not going to announce it at a PlayStation event. Because then people are like, oh, it's exclusive once again. People don't, like, the trailer that will be on the PlayStation State of Play will not have any of the other logos. Because that is Sony's policy. Xbox now does it. They're like, yo, you want to show the Steam machine or what? Anything is possible. You can show any logo, even though it's a direct competitor. PlayStation, they're like, no. You only show the PlayStation logo. So imagine Final Fantasy Part 3 being at the State of Play tomorrow. PlayStation 5. People are like, oh no, what the heck? But then Square Enix is like, no, it's coming to every platform. That's not the communication you want to have. So that's why I think a Summer Game Fest or Gamescom, that is where you will announce the third game. The third part in the remake. How's Gorilla explain the character with the rocket hammer? Well, very easy. He was a famous machine hunter. And that a lot of Osram, like almost all the Osram knew about. And seemingly we never heard of that character. And he, like, Aaron has the hammer, Aaron always had this hammer in his house or something, and he brought it to the old man instead of using it himself. He's like, yo, old man, you were a famous machine hunter once. Go use the hammer again instead of maybe a more fit person using it himself like Aaron would. That is kind of all I got from that. So yeah, I'm not really happy with how they are talking about these characters. They can still make another remaster or remake to Horizon 3. Oh sure, they will. I won't be at the State of Play, but it won't be at the State of Play, but it will come out very soon. I think so too, Alex Gamer. Part 3 we're talking about. I love a near sequel. That would be great. No Man's Sky, get to see you. Or No Man's Ski. So we need to make sure that Horizon Hunter's Gathering fails to get for Horizon 3 faster. Like, if you are Guerrilla, think of it this way. You have 300 developers, maybe a bit more. And you have to decide what they work on. That makes financial sense. So you have Hunter's Gathering right now that takes the majority of your staff is working on that. If that game comes out and it does very well, then you want to keep a lot of people on that game to work on seasons, to work on the paid cosmetics, to work on, or if they're going to do that, like I imagine they're going to do that, and all the other stuff, like the DLCs. So that means that you have like maybe 100 people on that game. The rest moves on to Horizon 3. If Horizon Hunter's Gathering doesn't do well, I don't think we want to live in that future because it's going to have a big impact on Guerrilla. But I do think that everyone then moves over to a surefire hit, Horizon 3. So, yeah, I think it's pretty, like, realistic to think of it that way. I think we are getting Horizon 3 faster if Hunter's Gathering doesn't do well. The health of the studio, though, would be better if Hunter's Gathering is a huge success. But I find it hard to believe, because why are they making this game in the first place? It's because the profit margins on all the microtransactions they can do in a game like this are way higher than selling your game once and then making a €30 DLC that also costs a lot of money and time and resources. And like, from the Horizon sort of like fan, you maybe get like $90 or yeah, a bit more nowadays because games are a bit more expensive. Say you get $100 for everything you did on Forbidden West. For Horizon Hunter's Gathering, the ceiling is unlimited. You can get way more money out of each person and you don't have to spend as much on it. So that's why, of course, a live service is a very good business prospect if you have a good game. But I think the core thing for a live service has to be that you don't have to explain to people why they should care. And I think that's the biggest trend and lesson I've seen in the last few years. The moment you have to convince people that your game is cool, you already lost. That's Star Wars Outlaws for you. It was like, if I told you, I think it's pretty similar. While there are two different games, but if I remember covering the Ubisoft Star Wars open world game, people had visions in their head of what this could be. There were concepts, like I was looking at, every time you watch like a Mandalorian episode, right? You saw a concept art in, I think, like at the end, when you saw like the credits, you saw concept art of the Mandalorian show. Looked absolutely insane. And I was thinking in my head, this has to be the Ubisoft game. Because we see Mando stand in front of like a huge open space in that, like, especially season 1, and that's why I like the season 1 the most. He's only doing side missions. Oh, he's coming to a new village. Yeah, we're being attacked by this big monster. Okay, I'm gonna help you guys. And that's the series. And I really thought, slam dunk. Ubisoft makes good open world games. I mean, back then their pedigree, like, people were higher on Ubisoft than they are right now. You give them the Star Wars license, you give them all the money in the world. Like, I would argue Star Wars Outlaws is probably $400 million. So, like, it's a very expensive game. And, yeah, it's gonna be a surefire success. But then they announced it, and then we were this character that I don't think a lot of people wanted to play. Then, like, they were just unable to... If you saw a trailer for that game, you already saw there was something wrong, or that, like... At that point, people had to be convinced why you want to play as Kay Vess, why you should invest in these characters, why you want to experience this smuggler story. Well, if they were just like, yeah, it's a Mandalorian open world game, you don't even have to see gameplay. You already know what that will likely be, and it's gonna be exciting. For Horizon, the same thing. I saw the concept art. Like, this concept art. They even showed it in the freaking video. Let's see. This is what I had in my mind. So we have, like, Aloy, or like a character looks like Aloy. A pretty cool old man with, like, a bear hat and, like, a very cool outfit. Very mature. And we had, like, this sort of, like, rogue thief character with 2 spears, like, kind of hammering on the machine, and it was dangerous. It was exciting. This is what I thought. We're gonna, like, the Thunderjaw is super, like, for Aloy at one point in the game, you still have to do your best, but it's pretty easy to take down the Thunderjaw, right? But so I thought, okay, we're not gonna play as an Aloy, but she's gonna split her powers into different characters. So, yeah, we need 3-4 people to take out the same Thunderjaw. And that would be like the Monster Hunter situation. And if you, like that is what my thoughts ran wild. Like, what an Horizon multiplayer game could be, combined with what the single player games were. This huge open world where you start at one point in the map, and because it's a completely new world, you don't know what will be at the other side of the map. And that is why I play these Horizon games, because I want to know how they shaped this world, what they did with the landmarks we know from the US, and what type of tribes, and especially, it felt like kind of like a Pokemon game, because you, like, at the start you have a Pokédex with like a few Pokemon, and then at the end, you know, okay, there are going to be 150 Pokemon. Throughout the game, every time you see a new Pokemon, and, like, you're not, like, looking on the internet to see all of them before playing. With the machines, that is what is exciting about them too. Seeing a new machine that you did not know about for the first time, and you're like, how am I even going to beat this Slaughter Spine? I don't know. It's gonna fire and then at the end of the game, you're good enough to do it. That is what Horizon is for me, exploring this amazing looking world and covering new machines and tribes and everything else, and learning about how these people are surviving in this new world. And then, so that is why I love Horizon. I then thought, okay, just add 2 players that run around and experience that with me. That would be a great game. And then we had Hunter's Gathering. Everyone, is playing Crimson Desert. Only try, only no, I'm not. Do you think we will see Intergalactic at the State of Play? No. I think it will still take some time before we see it. Crimson Desert PS5 demo shadow drop? No. Crimson Desert is from scratch on their own engine? Yes. I thought it was Horizon meets Monster Hunter World, like the mobile game look. Yeah, exactly. Steel Frontiers kind of still has that. But yeah, a lot of people talking about Crimson Desert. Yeah, I'm really excited for that too. I do think they will drop something new tomorrow. You think we're gonna get a shocker announcement tomorrow that hasn't leaked yet? I would argue there's not been a lot of leaks for the State of Play theory. So I totally think we will see something like that, yeah. Patrick, do you think a GTA 6 trailer or something will be shown in the State of Play? Absolutely not. You should never expect GTA things at a third-party event, because they can just host their own thing and they will have as many eyeballs. And I also think GTA 6 might actually hurt the show more than like people gain from it, because it will overshadow all the other games in that show. Yeah. Man, I wish Aaron could have done more in the last game. I think his role was pretty fine, but I get why you would say that. Do you think Horizon 3 will be much different than the first 2? Because what is there mechanically that can be done different than the first 2? It stays mostly the same. I'm not interested in Horizon 3. If it stays mostly the same. Like, I think one of the things they will do in Horizon 3 is, I think they're going to use, like, I think Death Stranding 2 is a pretty good test bed for what Horizon 3 will be. And they added a lot of environmental hazards. Like, Guerrilla always wants to use some sort of technical advancements and then build gameplay around it. So I totally like the flying in Horizon Forbidden West. That was now possible. They of course had the cloud tech, and then also in Burning Shores, where they used that cloud tech, there was some sort of gameplay element linked to it as well. So I totally think they will have snowstorms, or maybe things in the open world can break, so the open world changes. Something like that. I think that is what they will do as one of the key pillars in terms of what makes Horizon 3 stand out. Just join the chat. Anything on Crimson Desert? No, but I do think we might see something new tomorrow. The Witcher 4 is in 2027 at the earliest, yeah. No chance for State of Play. Do I have a title prediction for Final Fantasy Part 3? I thought the reunion was great, but they of course used that for Crisis Core, so I think it's kind of hard to predict. Any news on Steel Frontiers? That one guy Page? No, sadly not. I don't think they're gonna announce something soon, because the focus is now on Hunter's Gathering. They are, I think, kind of like picking their own spots. So when we see something Hunter's Gathering, don't expect anything Steel Frontiers in the near future, and the other way around. I want a major time skip for Horizon 3. I think that would actually be kind of cool too. I think it would be cool if you play Aloy, and then it changes halfway through the game or something. Or maybe, I think a banger move would be for people to pick who they want to play. So Horizon 3 starts, want to play as Aloy and continue her journey, blah blah, or pick a new character because you're new to this series. Because otherwise they will run into this issue that even Forbidden West already had. If you did not play Zero Dawn, did not understand the story, forgot about the story, it was kind of hard to get into Forbidden West. And I think Forbidden West's weakest part is the opening of the game. Because it really feels like they're trying to ease people in that already played or never played the Horizon games before. So, until the part that you see the Farseedas for the first time, it was very, very similar to Zero Dawn. So, yeah, I do think they will. I do hope they do something bold, for sure, like a major time skip or something like that. Horizon 3 needs more personalities for the characters, and the NPCs need to look like they actually live outside. Don't they look like they live outside? I kind of see where you're coming from, but still. I'm done with Aloy. Kill her off and give us one of the villagers. I know there are people like that, but I do think the core Horizon audience, if we get Hunter's Gathering with these characters and blah, 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 and then come Horizon 3, they kill off Aloy, I think people will be very angry. So I'm all for the choice. Have 3 starting points for the game that are different. And also, I think that would actually be kind of cool, having 2 starting points. Where at this, like kind of Cassandra Alexios, but then the characters are actually different. And then, you want to continue Aloy's journey, you start at this point, and they kind of get that, okay, you know this story already, so they don't have to, like, they of course have to refresh your memory, but they don't have to explain that Aloy is a clone and all that sort of stuff. They're just like, okay, you know that stuff, go out. And then at one point you reach an open world spot, and then you can also pick another character who's completely new, and that's for new people, and yeah, then you will stumble upon a rune or whatever, and be like, what the heck is this, and kind of learn about the Horizon stuff in a new but very organic way. And then you still reach at one point the same spot in the open world as Aloy, and then you can basically do all the same content, but see it through a different lens. Maybe a bit ambitious, but I do think that would solve the issue, because I think the biggest challenge for Horizon 3 is getting people in that did not play the first 2 games. Didn't like Forbidden West main enemy and story. Yeah, yeah. Give us a different weapon too. Like that's why I'm excited for Steel Frontiers. Like the more melee focus, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I really thought Forbidden West, of course, had the whole melee tree, but it didn't go as far as I wanted them to. Division 3 got announced. Yeah, it did, but it's still far off. Make a new character like Raiden the Snake. Oh yeah, that's a good call. But they have to. I think it's possible, but they have to make sure that that character is at least as strong as Aloy. But they don't mind like revealing all these other random characters for Hunter's Gathering though that do crazy over the top moves. Witcher 3 DLC trailer. I could totally see that be at the state of play. I could totally see that. They need to improve the gameplay for Horizon 3 to differentiate from the first 2, for sure. For sure. Cheetah says Horizon 3's new enemy being a personality AI orb traveling to space is horrible writing. Yeah. I never like in entertainment ever the AI enemy sort of storyline, because it just feels untouchable, and it feels like, I don't know, even now with AI being what it is and how rapidly it's growing, you kind of do see that, yeah, it is possible, but it still feels kind of like, it's also usually written by people that are not very tech savvy, so they just come up with this like very, very black and white, AI is bad, human hurt me I'm way stronger. Like, I think the Mission Impossible movies are a great example. The Lost 2, The Reckoning. I watched that. Like, I think the first one was actually pretty cool, part one. And then the second one leaned even heavily into the AI stuff. And it really. I was never really engaged. I was never like, this is a real threat. It was just like, oh, they're hacking the system. Oh no, the malware. And they're just. You saw that they didn't even understand what they were saying. But yeah, that was what was happening. And it feels like digital, untouchable, and then they can just make up random things. AI makes sense in Horizon. Yeah, it certainly does, but I think it was cooler when it was like, yeah, less of a rogue AI coming to Earth, kill everyone. Like, I think that's why Silence, I think, worked so well. Because it gave it a bit of a human angle. What are your personal thoughts on Intergalactic? I've said it before, but I really think that if that game was not a Naughty Dog game, I right now would not be excited for Intergalactic. But because it's Naughty Dog and I love their games, I think The Last of Us Part 2 is amazing, especially the gameplay. It doesn't get enough credits for how good that gameplay is and how good the enemy AI is. Like, I'm excited seeing Naughty Dog's trajectory from having Uncharted 4 in an open level like Madagascar, Lost Legacy having a sort of open world where you could, like, at one point pick the 3 towers and do them in any order, and then the Seattle part in Last of Us Part 2, which was amazing with the amount of secrets. And it really felt like the road you took through Seattle was the road they had intended, even though everyone else could do things in a different order. So combining all that and the amazing gameplay in part 2 to a more gameplay focused game with Intergalactic that will still have these open spaces, I think on paper should be an amazing game. So I really think the next time they show it, the gameplay reveal is going to be very, very important. And I really hope, and I have hope, that when they finally show it, we will all be like, what the heck? This looks insane. But they have some work to do. It is kind of crazy to me that a Naughty Dog reveal trailer was not a slam dunk. And it should have been. So again, they got work to do. But I still have high hopes for Intergalactic. I want to see more. Silence holds the games together, yeah. I love Division 1, but nothing felt new in the second one. Yeah, and they learned from that. That was kind of the Ubisoft era where they kind of went too safe. We had obviously Division 2. Like, showing the trailers, it did not, like, they did not communicate anything new. It just like, oh, we're doing it again. Far Cry 6 is another great example of that. Oh, we're just paying Carlo Esposito a lot of money and he's going to be the face and people will eat it up. Well, the game still sold pretty well, but not as good as the previous one, Far Cry 5. And they had, like, if you think about it, what was new in Far Cry 6? They still had the pet animals that we already had. Like, the guns for hire were a new feature in 5. They added animals in Far Cry New Dawn. And then in Far Cry 6, we still had those animals. The fangs for hire. So, yeah, I really think they have to do more bold things. Yeah, to push it forward. Joel dying did suck. Yeah, I get it. I think it was, like, kind of crazy, though, that they did that. But yeah, I get why you don't like it. Horse riding, that's not big enough. That should be like a cool extra feature, but I don't think each game has to innovate. Sometimes it's just about the setting. Well, Ubisoft figured that out the hard way. That sadly that is maybe the case for the hardcore people but it's not the case to get the mainstream to care, and they need those people to sell the 10 million that some of these games sold over time. So I do think, yeah, they have to swing for the fences and add a bit more innovative gameplay to make those games stand out. I don't want to play as Abby, Captain P. Yeah, I get that. I get, like, I think part 2 is so fascinating because they were like, screw it. We're going to do things that no other AAA big budget game will do because it will piss off the gamer. But they still did it. They killed off the main character from the first game that everyone loved, and they made you play as the person who killed that main character. And somehow, by the end of it, the end of the Abby arc, I cared for her as well. It worked on me. But I also get the perspective where you're picking up this game. The marketing for The Last of Us Part 2 was really shady because they had Joel in scenes where he wasn't really in the game. I think he was on the horse in Seattle. Or was it just Ellie? I think Joel was in parts where where he was already dead in the story. So picking up that game not knowing Joel dies, you're coming in, you're paying your money with the expectation that you're getting something completely different. And when a movie does that, I think they get away with it because you're only there for 2.5 hours and you're not controlling the character. You are a bit more distant from the characters. So going in expecting a movie about blah blah blah, and then plot twist 2 hours in it's different, or an hour and a half in it's different. It's different than with a game where you're going in expecting it to be like the first, and then yeah, they do something drastically different. But that is why I think The Last of Us Part 2 is so special, because they were not afraid to do it. They did it. And it succeeded for me. Like, there are rarely games that do bold things like that. So Abby had the best gameplay. Yeah, like finally being able to punch enemies again and be like a strong physical character as well was nice. Joel dying is not really bad. It's how and when that's bad. I get that. The whole golf club and how easy it kind of was. I get that. But yeah, I don't know. They probably did interviews on why they did it like that. I get it though, but I don't have to like it. No, I didn't say you had to like it. I get both perspectives, but I think that is what makes Last of Us Part 2 special. They could have done a very safe sequel, like Forbidden West. Was a very safe sequel. Ghost of Yotei, very safe sequel. They could have done that. But to me, I will remember Last of Us Part 2 more fondly because it played with my expectations way more than some of these other games. You'll spend many hours with a character playing someone you don't like is kind of bad. Yeah, of course, but the whole point was for you to care. And I do think that that's another interesting thing about streaming versus like playing a game on Game Pass versus buying it. You were still going to imagine if The Last of Us Part 2 came out on Game Pass and you had no horse in the race. So the moment you were playing Abby, you're like, screw this, I don't want to play it anymore. The whole art form, the whole idea for that game out of the window. Because the idea is that you play as Abby and you don't like it. It makes sense. But slowly but surely you see that everyone in this world has had a hard life. And if your father was killed by... And I think in the TV show, the whole scene at the end of season 1 with Joel going into the hospital, killing everyone, it had a way bigger impact on me because Joel was not killing a lot of humans before getting to that hospital. And So then, for me, it once again, I think the show did a great job. The season 1. I did not watch season 2 yet. I don't know why. I heard like bad things about it. I'm like, I want to preserve this story as like a good thing, but it showed me, especially the TV show, that Joel is a villain in this world. Especially, and you cannot really know it. Neil did say it. They could have made a cure by sacrificing Ellie, but Joel stopped that for his own. Like, he wanted to. He could save everyone, but he decided to only save himself, and that is obviously not okay. So that, plus the fact that he killed her father, it makes sense. Like, that Abby is like that her whole journey is about killing Joel. Now I agree that it went kind of random and kind of fast, and oh, you're Joel. Oh, but I by the end was like, I might be team Abby because Ellie is crazy. But of course that is what that world does with you. But don't watch season 2. Okay. And then below that we got season 2 is great. Hey Mark, come on. Rumo Tonolo, some people crying about sequels being too safe are the ones crying about Last of Us 2 being what it is. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. Is Blue Jew taking a risk is good, I feel. I agree, but you saw what happened with part 2. If you are a developer, now, let's say you are... I think Witcher might not be a good example, but did they kill off Ciri like in the first 2 hours? No. What is another like sequel that we got coming up where if they killed the main character we would all riot? Kratos. What if there's going to be a new God of War game and they kill off Kratos in the first 2 hours and you're suddenly playing Atreus? I mean, they kind of did it with Ragnarok, but Kratos is not dead. But if you are Corey or anyone else making that decision right now, and you're like, yeah, that would be a huge risk, and that would be bold, and that would be kind of crazy, and people would still talk about it 10 years from now, or we could just do the safe sequel, and blah, blah, blah. But then, seeing the reaction that The Last of Us Part 2 got, I do get why you would then be like, it's not worth the risk, the potential backlash that we will get. So... I'm all for taking risks as well. I do think the point about them, they could have done a better job, like, with how they did it. But I also really admire them for having the balls. So that's why, look, that was the most recent game from Naughty Dog. I know it's crazy, 2019. Or 2020. It was 2020, right? Yeah. That is the most recent game from Naughty Dog. They're now doing Intergalactic. Who says we're playing as Jordan throughout the whole game? I would not put my money on it. I can see that change as well. Look, if they were going to do it for Joel, they can totally do it for a character we have no attachment to. But I do hope that we get, when Jordan gets killed, that we like the character and are that we are actually at the point where, like, okay, I had my reservations, but this character is kind of cool, and then we're killed, and then we move on to the next character. Like, I would be shocked if Intergalactic is this safe sequel where we play the same main character throughout the whole game and meet this like crew and no one dies. Like, I don't believe that for one moment. Yeah, it's better to regret taking risks than having done nothing at all and then regret it. That's a good statement. Can we expect the Black Flag remake at the State of Play? No, Harrington. And totally check my React video because I talk about everything we can and cannot expect. Wukong is not hard, but 2 or 3 bosses are hard. Samaya, I'm not sure. Glad that you are here, but I'm not sure. Are people talking about Wukong? I've not seen it. But then they will bring back Kratos again and again. I get it. Kratos has died how many times? That is right. But like really die. Really not survive. I know, it's maybe not the best example. What about Insomniac? Do you think they will manage to release Wolverine this year, Venom next year, and then Spider-Man 3 in 2028, 2029? Isn't that insane? Or do you think they can achieve that? Well, Drift, we have to remember that they were able to launch Miles Morales, then Ratchet & Clank the year after, and then 2 years after that launch Spider-Man 2. So they're totally capable. They've not launched anything since 2023. They canceled the DLC for Spider-Man 2. We knew that was pretty far along. And Wolverine has been in development ever since Miles Morales. Because it's mostly that team working on it. So I totally think there is a possibility where we see that. But I also think that maybe the PlayStation 6 delay, it was first planned for 2027. It seems to have moved. I do think Venom is that launch game that you want to have, similar to Miles Morales. Maybe they pushed Venom by a year, and then Spider-Man 3 also by a year. So that we're looking at Venom 2028, Spider-Man 2029 or 2030. But that's still a pretty impressive schedule. And I do think they have to hit a home run with Spider-Man 3. Because Spider-Man 2 should have been a home run, but it wasn't. I think the third act with Venom was not great. So, and they need to do more. It has to be a bigger game. I need to have more side content, more. I want to get lost in this world and not constantly being afraid that I finish it. And that's a good thing, I think, as well. But I do think Spider-Man 2 could have been way more. Like, it could have been a true sequel instead of another round with the Spider Bros or something. That's what it felt like. So, and a lot of cliffhangers. I want no more cliffhangers. I think that was my biggest thing with Spider-Man 2. And I was right. Like I said, I don't want to have all these cool side stories and then have to wait 5 years to experience the end. And it might be even longer than 5 years before we see some of those threads end. And I don't think that's a good thing. I never finished Spider-Man 2. Ooh, more MJ scenes now. Don't do it. I think she will get a podcast, and that is about it. I do like her in cutscenes, though. Jordan dies in the prologue, and we play as a likable character afterwards for Intergalactic. Again, I think they will make us like Jordan first, and then they will kill her off. Like, I think that would be the sweet spot. That they first want to prove that they actually make a cool character, and then by the moment you're like, I kind of vibe with her, and she has like a cool future, and I'm excited for her to do it. She get hit by a spaceship or whatever they will do. I don't know. Hey, Neil Dancer, good to see you. She will never be likable, let's be real. They designed her in a way to make every average gamer dislike her on purpose. And that is what Naughty Dog likes. If they can make you like Abby, they can make you like this character you have no real good reason to hate. This is impossible. Jordan will never be liked. I'm gonna save this comment and we will see. But I mean, it's subjective, so you can of course always say, "Oh, I never liked her." No, MJ needs her own game. Playing her is so fun. MJ solo game, PS7 exclusive. I'm not gonna take the bait. I'm not gonna take the bait. He dies in the game of Space Golf. I mean, I could see that work. Think we get Silk in Spider-Man 3 and switch between Peter, Miles, and Silk? Yeah. For sure, real deal. But I do think we will not... I think we will play as Miles and Silk first. And then Peter comes back later. Like, I think Peter will not be playable at the start of Spider-Man 3. But more later on. And I hope they do that because I'm kind of over these Sony exclusives, stripping away all the upgrades we had for these characters and playing as them again and them not being as strong as they were at the end of the last game. It doesn't make sense. So if they have Miles, maybe Miles has something where he's not as powerful. We play Silk, and then later on it's like, dude, the city is burning. We really need you, Peter. And then you are almost dead. Oh no, and then Peter comes and saves the day, and then you take over control. It's like, oh my god. When you play that, you can think about me. Because that is what will probably happen. They filled with Abby. Most people did not end up liking her. Well, Darren, those people, they already made their reservation. I mean, more power to you if you never liked Abby. But then I don't think you can say you like Ellie too. I don't think there's a good... You then only like Ellie more because you spend more time with her. But what if we had an MJ solo game where she was really just Spider-Gwen? No. I don't think they will do it. I already didn't like MJ turning into the symbiote creature. I really hated that part. Yor needs to give pitches to these game companies better ideas than what they come up with. Well, I don't know, but I think that's pretty obvious that will happen, right? But maybe because it feels obvious, it will not happen because I do like them. Like that's what I think God of War Ragnarok is the best example. We all thought, oh, we're gonna get Mjolnir, like that will be the third weapon and blah blah, and no, it was a spear. Nobody saw that coming, and yeah, you were already fighting Thor at the beginning. Like they really like to, yeah, toy with your expectations in Ragnarok. So I really appreciate that from Santa Monica. So maybe they will not do that Spider-Man thing. Because that is what I would expect. I would hope they're doing something different. But we will see. Somaya with the super chat. Appreciate you a lot. Now, I usually recommend Yakuza games, but hold off on Kiwami 3. Yakuza 3 Remastered is a better choice. Kiwami 3 rushed remake on limited budget. Maybe forced by Sega. Clearly, the A-team is working on Stranger Than Heaven. So everyone who was in the market for Kiwami 3, don't do it. Listen to the prophet, Somaya, with the super chat. Appreciate you Somaya, appreciate you saving everyone from what seems to be a very bad financial decision. And appreciate that. Appreciate that. And the Final Fantasy 7 Part 3 news, Saber Knight. Of course, I talked about it in the Sunday news roundup, but I do think we will get the game announced this year, but not at the State of Play. It makes no sense to have that as a PlayStation exclusive. Or like to announce it at a PlayStation exclusive show, but because they want to get off that mantra that it's gonna be a PlayStation exclusive. Yakuza Pirates. Well, that was launched last year, right? Hey Ethan, good to see you as always. Thanks for joining. Do you think they will ever release Astrobot on PC? It's not out on PC, right? I don't think they will, because what we've seen for a lot of the platformers like Ratchet & Clank and Little Big Planet, they don't sell on PC. And I've been watching like the Champions League, and they have like PlayStation ads, and you only see Astrobot. So it really seems that they want to use Astrobot as a mascot, and having like that also appear on PlayStation, they have to draw the line somewhere. And I think Astrobot on PC will likely sell 50,000 copies or maybe 100,000. That's not worth it for them. So I don't think it will ever launch on PC. But I might be wrong. Do you think we'll ever get a new Deus Ex? No, sadly not, because Eidos Montreal was working on a Deus Ex that got canned. It's not happening. What are your expectations for HBO Baldur's Gate 3? Well, it's not gonna be good, because I don't think Larian is involved, so they will likely butcher the characters everyone loves. Are you interested in Soulframe or Chrono Odyssey? No. I think Chrono Odyssey looked great in trailers, but I'm not sure if you've seen the footage from the beta test. It was not very good. And Soulframe, it's basically Warframe. And yeah, I don't have time for those games. So yeah. Any upcoming games you're most excited to play? Well, Crimson Dash is of course high on the list. I'm very excited for 007. Phantom Blade Zero, very high on the list. The Black Flag remake, obviously. And very curious about Hexay. Wolverine is totally up there. I think we're gonna get a lot of great games. If I had to pick one, though, that I want to play right now, and I'm mostly talking about 2026 games, like Witcher 4. Obviously, I'm excited for that, but that feels still far away. I think I'm gonna get Phantom Blade Zero. I think that is my most anticipated game for 2026. HBO's making a Baldur's Gate 3 show, yeah. It's possible for Ubisoft to die as publisher and lose all their franchises. How does it work? Hey, Warren, I don't think so. Because they can still sell off these franchises and make money. But, I mean, that is what I think Ubisoft will likely become or wants to become. Maybe they will even drop the Ubisoft name at one point if they're, like... The fact is, Assassin's Creed is huge. Far Cry is still big. They can make money on that. And Rainbow Six is huge. The rest is a gamble. And I do think at one point they don't want to make gambles anymore. So, I do think tomorrow is going to be a very sad day and big day for Ubisoft, likely. Because they will announce the layoffs and their financial call. I will, of course, bring you all the news here on the channel. But yeah, that's going to be a very sad day indeed. But yeah, we'll have, of course, all the news here. Blood of Dawnwalker, I hope to see it in the State of Play. I hope to see it get a release date for that. Hoping Ubisoft wakes up and then revives Splinter Cell. I mean, they've been working on the remake for a long time. I think we see more of Godslayer tomorrow now. I don't know. I mean, it's hard. It could be, but that felt still like a very early game. So I don't think they will show it. Go to a remake update at State of Play? No, because Sony lost they had a deal. Sony had a deal with, it was first going to be a console exclusive, but that of course did not go through. So no, I don't think we should expect KOTOR at the State of Play, because they don't have a deal with PlayStation anymore. So it still seems to be happening, but yeah, Sony is not going to promote it anymore. Will Corey game be the flagship title for 2027? I think Intergalactic will be that. But yeah, I thought, and not a lot of people picked up on that, but Intergalactic was internally a summer 2027 game, and all the big Sony single-player titles launch at the end of the year, which told me that Sony was having something else at the end of 2027. So, I think that's either going to be the Corey game or it was like the PlayStation 6. But, yeah, it could be. But I don't, yeah, it's gonna be fascinating. But we had rumors actually this week that the Corey game might be sooner than we think, so maybe next year. And that would make sense, because he's been working on it for a very long time, and Santa Monica has not launched a big game since 2021. Of course, they did the Fallout DLC, but that was just a small part of the company. Odyssey Next Gen Remake, I will give my soul. I will be making content. We will at one point be doing a stream like this, and there will be an Odyssey remake announced. I bet money on it. There's going to be one at one point. And I think that would be very funny. Is there any PlayStation game that can be announced at PC? I think everything as good has already come to PC. No, Warren. Death Stranding 2 could still come. And, of course, Ghost of Yotei. But I think they will still wait a bit for that. So. And I think that's the end of the stream. I can't wait for 007. So glad the Hitman people are making it, yeah. Sorry to say this, Jordan, but I think all future games should be released on PC because some of us only play games on PC. Like I. Yeah, Ethan, I get that, but it's still a business, and Sony makes way more money from people buying a PlayStation and then buying all the games on PlayStation than putting a game on PC. So they will look at it from a point. Like, at one point, Ghost of Yotei will have. At one point, nobody will buy a PlayStation anymore to buy Ghost of Yotei, so then it's safe to put it on PC to get a lot of extra revenue. But before that point has reached, they're just gonna not launch it on PC. It's not about, like, I want all the games to be available everywhere. I want everyone to have access to all the games. But that doesn't make a lot of financial sense. What do you think about the cancellation of the Watch Dogs franchise? I still think they will do something Watch Dogs related at one point, but it has to be a small game. And there's still weight to that name. But if they don't come up with a good idea, they should maybe not touch it. But the problem with that series is not that it's not successful. It's that it's not successful enough. It just cost a lot of money to make an urban city with a lot of NPCs. And all the games always had an issue. They never really realized on the full potential. Because Watch Dogs 1 was a huge success, but it fell flat because they promised more than it turned out to be. Watch Dogs 2 was then very good, but people did not buy it because they didn't like the first one. And then it still sold a lot. It sold more than 10 million copies, but likely at the $20 price tag. And then the Watch Dogs Legion, they tried to do something completely different, which just didn't work really well. So there was not a slam dunk. Like, there was no Assassin's Creed 2 for Watch Dogs. No Black Flag for Watch Dogs that everyone seems to love. And I think that is hard for... Like, it costs maybe more money right now to make a new Watch Dogs game than a new Assassin's Creed. So why then even bother with Watch Dogs? Am I still excited for Atomic Heart 2? Yeah, that trailer looked amazing. But we have to wait and see, of course. How many hours do you currently have in Crimson Desert? 4 hours? But only preview events. There are no codes for the game. I would not be answering that question if I had the game. Think about it. Ubisoft remake announcement tomorrow? Too soon? No, it's not gonna happen. The rumors already suggested it's not gonna happen. They would make a ton of money from a Bloodborne remaster, yet here we are. That is true. But yeah, the whole Bloodborne situation it's just... Something is up. Oh, 2022 was Ragnarok, 2023 was Fallout. You're right. You're right. You are right. I noticed in your video on biggest upcoming games, you forgot to mention Atomic Heart 2. Yeah, because it's not a 2026 game. I talked only about the 2026 games. I feel a more grounded Watch Dogs focused on the grimmer story like John Wick Simulator. Oh man, yeah, that would be amazing. Because I still think the hacking gameplay is kind of cool, but that is, I think, another issue with Watch Dogs. They had the cool hacking gameplay, and it never really advanced. The hacking you could do in 2 was just similar to what you could do in 1, and the hacking in Legion was very basic as well. So they could never like really make that like really evolve that mechanic. But yeah, that's it for the stream. Hope you have a great time. I'll speak to you very soon. I'll be back, of course. And tomorrow is gonna be an interesting day. We will do a live reaction, of course, to the State of Play. You can set a reminder to that. And I will